think the very first time I understood a little bit more about working with the energy was one time when I heard a group of kids playing, and I noticed the quality of their laughter had changed and the quality of their shouts was different. And I looked out the door to see what was going on, and there was no fighting. There was nothing apparent. So I went back to what I was doing, and then about 2 minutes later, I hear this scream and go, and it's dissolved into somebody's been hurt and someone's in tears and someone's mad. And I realized, oh, I tuned into that energy before it happened, but I didn't pay enough attention. I should have gone and intervened right then because the energy had changed. And so physically that's going to manifest in reality. And then of course, I feel like a main part of the book, Education for Life, are the chapters 10 through 12 on progressive development and specific gravity, which is all about levels of energy and what motivates us when we're at different levels. And I feel like the more I understood that, both for myself and the children and others, and the more I tuned into it, the more I used that knowledge with the kids, the more smoothly things ran. And so you can, in one sense, you can say, okay, there are these 3 levels of specific gravity, and this is how that all works. And that's sort of reductionist and intellectual, and that, for me, that was helpful. But there's also just a sense more of a holistic system. And when you tune into the systems of energy in the child and how energy manifests through them, intellectually, body, feeling, and will, and where they're the most comfortable, and provide opportunities, and then how the energy of the class and all the kids interact, and how you can influence it. You can't control it, but you can really influence it, and you can help them rise to their highest. Magical things happen, and that you couldn't have anticipated because because energy has its own intelligence, basically. Yeah. And I know that to some people that's going to sound like, oh, what kind of euphemism is that? It sounds so vague, and it would take too long to give you lots and lots of examples right now, but it is a reality. It is true. Yeah.
So would that mean just sort of working on more of an energetic level, like really just tuning in more, being more aware? How would that look like, practically speaking?
Yes. Well, one of the first things I learned was in my education on Education for Life was that Peter McDowell, Kabir now, once went into a classroom and everybody was just lying around and not, looking bored and not really enthusiastic with them. And he jumped up and ran out the door and said, "Follow me." And he was halfway down the hill. The classroom then was way up on top of the big hill before they realized he was serious. And they ran and got their shoes and chased him. And eventually he let them catch him back at the classroom, and they went in. And then, of course, they were all awake and ready for whatever was about to happen. At the time, coming from a regular school background, I thought, really? He just ran out the door and left them there and said, but the principle is so right on that you have to awaken the energy first. And if it's in a heavy state, that's usually a strong physical activity of some kind. So that's one principle right there. If that was the only principle you got, it would help your teaching. And that there's so many related to that. Another one is that it's easier to, how does it go? It's easier to tame a wild puppy than to wake up an old dog or something like that. So that when you have a kid who has lots of energy and maybe it's not focused, to appreciate that and help them channel it and spend your energy helping, calling out the highest in that is well worth your time. Whereas a child who has low energy, I mean, sometimes they have low energy because of a physical reason or emotional problem at home. And of course we need to try to find out what those things are and help. But when you work with the most energetic in the class, it raises everybody.
So it's really just working with children where they're at, just feeling.
Yes, and seeing what brings out the best energy in each child. Your questions are so good. They're bringing all these examples to my mind. Like one child responds beautifully, maybe with an intellectual challenge. Another child responds with being helpful. And one little story I can tell is that one time I had a student that was, actually it wasn't my class, but I was a principal in the school, and the teacher had a student who was older than everyone else in the class, and she had been there the year before, and the new students were younger and they hadn't had the experience in that classroom. So she was quite advanced and would know the answers to everything, and participate, speak out, and kept the class lively. But as the year went on, this was getting kind of boring for her. It wasn't enough of a challenge. And she started, her energy started turning to be kind of uncooperative toward the teacher and rebellious. And basically she was a little bored. Mm. And the teacher, who was her first year in teaching in Education for Life School, kind of wanted to be stricter and give her consequences. But that would be, that's what you do for a child who's got heavy energy. She didn't have heavy energy. She had light energy, and now she'd sunk to ego active. And I just was thinking, well, what brings out the best in her? Well, she loved little kids and pets. And so I asked the preschool teacher if she could use her to help one morning a week. And the preschool teacher was delighted. And so I suggested to the teacher, that's what we do, is have her go help in the preschool one morning a week. And she was like, why would we do that? That's rewarding her for bad behavior. And I said, no, it's giving her a chance to express her strengths and to get out of this classroom and just reset. It's like an energy reset. And so we did it, and her mood, and she felt useful. She felt she was giving, and it just changed. It changed her whole energy. Yeah.
That's so beautiful to have a teacher, tune into you like that and know what it is that you really need, rather than, like you said, just the traditional, let's, punish them for this behavior. It's amazing.
Yes. And it's what every great Education for Life teacher does, and what the ones who are just beginning are learning, is how to see each child's strengths and tendencies, and how to help them through those strengths, through bringing them out and giving them opportunities in those areas. Then when they have those rewarding experiences, they're more willing to go along with you for the things they find challenging or boring or whatever. Yeah.
Would you say like a lot of teaching comes through trial and error?
Oh, yes. And but you don't have to, if you have good mentors, you don't have to have as much trial and error, because you can see from them what works. But still, everybody's got to be in the classroom and make mistakes, and yeah, a lot of it's trial and error. But the more you tune in on a super conscious level, the more intuition starts to help too. That you don't have to always know the answer, but you have to be willing to accept the situation as it is, not wish it were different, not wish that student weren't here, that, or not wish you had this to teach, but to accept it and then ask for the universe, actually, for answers or inspiration. Even pray about it, pray for a child. And in my experience, answers come when you can do that. Of course, when we're nervous and uptight and think I can't or I don't want to, it blocks that intuition and inspiration.